Great. So welcome to tonight's presentation, which is going a little bit deeper on the yang linking vessels, or the yin and the yang linking vessels. And so these vessels, I already covered with the dragon, but I was doing movements of dragon and rabbit. And now I'm just going to go focus a little bit more on these actual vessels themselves, which each of the extraordinary vessels have regulating points, which are points which are said to regulate the whole of the vessel. And the yin and the yang linking are really like the yin aspect of the arm and the yang aspect of the arm. And what we have to remember with the linking vessels, and it actually also applies to the stepping vessels, that the linking vessels, their regulating points are on the hands, or more accurately on the wrists, because when we're growing in the womb, firstly, we develop from our midline at 2 weeks after conception. We're a bilaminar disc, and we become a trilaminar disc at 3 weeks. And we can see that this bilaminar at 2 weeks is the front and the back, the head and the tail, conception and governing, Ren and Do. And then we make a trilaminar, which is really when we fill out, and that's the chong, the sea of blood, the penetrating vessel. At the same time, we're sort of filling out, we're protecting ourselves, and that's the daimai, the girdle vessel. So they're all forming at 3 weeks. And then during the 4th week, our heart starts to form. And then also after that, our brain, and our heart actually starts beating in the 4th week. I mentioned the heart and the brain because they're the first 2 organs that develop, and they're core organs for all of the extraordinary vessels. But then fairly soon after our heart starts beating, we start developing our hands. And our hands start off as little buds. And we haven't, because obviously it takes time to develop the fingers. They're just little buds, which are actually very close to our heart. And a bit later, a few days later, we have the same for feet, which are very close to our pelvis. But we don't yet have shoulders and pelvis. So actually the hands are very close to the developing cells, which will become our kidneys and also our reproductive organs, which I like now to call our palaces. So you can see straight away that the regulating points for the linking vessels, if you know them, they're heart protector 6 and triple heater 5. So they're points that are very directly, especially heart protector 6, in connection with the heart. Triple heater is also like the upper burner, also closely connected to the heart, our arms, our wings. And then the stepping vessels, their points are the points in the heel, kidney 6 and bladder 62, which of course are very closely linked to our kidneys and also our reproductive organs. But the linking and the stepping are very close together. And even though that I'm talking about the linking as being very connected directly to the brain and the heart, the stepping vessels are as well. The linking vessels are also, we'll see that there's areas around our abdomen and our hips which connect them also to our reproductive organs, our palaces and our womb. So I'll just go through some of the main points for the linking vessels. Well, in fact, I was asked to clarify that they are much more than just the points. They're quite broad bands. And in fact, the yin covers all the yin aspects of the arm, and the yang covers all the yang aspects of the arm. So try not to relate them too specifically to the 12, to just being related to 1 or 2 of the 12 meridians, because actually, if you think about it, they start with the hands. and then the hands and then the arm develop. So it's actually the origin of all of the energies in the arms, and also it's an expression of the heart. And the stepping vessels which balance it are an expression of all the energies of the pelvis and the legs. But the linking vessels have a few points in the legs, and the stepping vessels have a few points in the shoulders. So the areas, I'll start with areas. See them as very broad. In fact, now with the extraordinary vessels, I see them as really the whole of the yin and the whole of the yang. But even the 12 meridians I see as broader than just a line. Everything's bigger. Our bodies aren't lines, really, are they? So anyway, we wanted just to give, I was going to give a bit more clarification on the pathways. So with the linking vessels, the regulating points, so there are points on them. So the regulating points are heart protector 6 for the yin and triple heater 5 for the yang. But again, see it as broader. See them as wings, really. So even though it's heart protector 6 and triple heater 5, it actually goes into the whole hand. So now on my diagrams, I'm putting heart protector 8, which seems quite an important point. But again, don't just limit it to the points. See it as the whole area. So it's like the whole of the inside of the hand, but with heart protector 8 in the middle. The whole of the inside of the wrist, but with heart protector 6 in the middle. And so for the yang, it's triple heater 5. And I haven't put a point in the hand, but it's really think of it as the whole of the yang. And so that's the tip of our wings. But they're very important for the shoulders, because our wings, well, when we do the movements, we'll start with the movements of the shoulders, because obviously if your shoulders are tight, then you can't really fly very far. So yes, the regulating point opens up the energy of the whole pathway. So when you get into the arms, think of the whole of the yang and the whole of the yin, but in the yang, it's especially important areas are the deltoid muscles, which are quite protective, and then within the muscles, because of course if we're actually doing exercise or if we're doing shiatsu, it's a bit vague to just think of all the yin and all the yang, because it could also be, how do you connect with something? You need to connect with something a bit more specific. So there are points also on the vessels, and so the points for the yang linking are tip of the deltoid. But I always say to people, when you're working and when we're doing the exercises, first feel the broadness and then go into the point. So at the tip of the deltoid is large intestine 14. On the side of the deltoid, you've got triple heater 13. Then you've also got, again, still for the yang, if you think of muscles that are kind of protecting, you've got the trapezius muscle. So on the top of that, the point that everyone knows, gallbladder 21. But behind that, triple heater 5. And then on the head, if we're like a bird, we are going to be looking where we're flying. So that's also a movement that we can do for flying. And then there are points on the gallbladder on the head. But the main thing is, if you want to use them in a shiatsu session, or even if you're focusing on the movements, don't join like all the gallbladder points up. So you don't want to be joining gallbladder 21 with gallbladder 20, because then you'll really be taking the body into gallbladder energy. So what you could do is combine gallbladder 20 with triple heater 15, for example. So you're bringing in 2 different meridians from the 12 meridians, and that brings in a more global energy. For the yang linking, there are also there's small intestine 10, because when you move your shoulders and you put your hand in the back under your scapula, you should hopefully feel the movement of the bones and of small intestine 10, which we know is an important point for the shoulder. So again, small intestine 10, if you were doing shiatsu, you could combine it with another point. So try and think of the areas around the points, but in broad sense. Also, there are links with the pelvis, gallbladder 29, which is if you touch your anterior superior iliac spine and then halfway to the greater trochanter of your femur. So it's before gallbladder 30. Then that's also another gallbladder point. So it's linking in with the pelvis, because I was asked about the connection with the pelvis. If you think of the Du, the Ren, and the Chong, and the Dai, they're the center, and then the limbs emerge out of that, the hands and the feet. So they do come back and relate to the center from which they emerge. And that's also a crossover point for the stepping vessels, which are much more in the feet. So now for the yin linking, there aren't that many points in the arms, in fact. There's just the regulating point, heart protector 6. But in the chest, so again, the points help us to identify certain energies that join up, but think of them as connecting to the whole arm. So the yin, we've got large intestine, liver 14, which is the last point of the liver, which is the name of it is the end of cycle. So this shows us something quite important about the linking vessels, that they are about regulating, which is what I explored in the dragon video, the cycles of 7 years and 8 years. Now I think my batch is going on the camera, so I'll have to maybe change that while I'm giving my descriptions of the 7 and 8 year cycles, just so you don't lose, you still have my voice, but you'll lose the picture, because you don't need that so much. Now I'm exploring the 7 and 8 year cycles. So just to say that the linking vessels are about longer cycles of time in our body. So cycles of 7 years for women and 8 years for men. So if you think back through your life, it might help you think about how the way express themselves. It's like the passage of time in your body. So when you have long changes. So in our first 7 years, we're in the child phase. And generally, as children, most people are more open to new experiences, because basically everything is new. We're doing our things for the first time, and so we're more fully open. But as we keep repeating things, we might get more fixed in our way of doing things. And that's why the Chinese would say that try and keep the fluidity of the child. And that's why they like the image of the bird. I mean, the way actually means the bird. It's an image of a bird, because the birds are much more free and open to absorb lots of new experiences. And with us as humans, because we're much more related to the earth, we tend to limit our movements and keep repeating things. But of course, we can remain and have that openness as a child. So when we do the movements, I'm going to get you to think a bit about the cycles in your life, what you were doing when you were a child, and then how have you kept that openness of a child as you've gone through cycles in your life. And so I was talking about cycles, but because large intestine or liver 14 is called the end of cycles, and this is really what the linking vessels are about, is how as we go through our life, we might not be as open in our gestures, especially in modern society. We don't tend to open up our arms as much, or remember our bird-like nature, because a lot of people are sitting at desks or looking at phones or in front of their computers. So it's really remembering. And this is why Qigong is so important, because many of the movements of Qigong are about keeping that openness, being connected with animals, like the dragon, but other animals too. So we're going to stay a bit focused on the bird and our wings. But we aren't just birds, and even birds come to rest on the earth. Dragons come to rest on the earth. So there's important points for the yin linking that are on the spleen meridian. So that's the connection with earth, is through the spleen points from spleen 16. So really all along the edge of the the outer edge of the recti muscles to spleen 12 in the groin, which of course actually form part of the girdle vessel. And the girdle vessel kind of binds us to the earth. And then if we connect with our feet, then we've got the heels. And so these are the stepping vessels, and more about first our connection to the earth. And so we're balanced, and the intersection of the linking and the stepping is really in our pelvis, because we get the stepping vessels also share the gallbladder 29 point, and actually the yang also share the small intestine point, because we walk, and when we walk we move our arms, but when we walk we're not moving our arms in the same way as when we're flying. And of course our legs become much lighter when we fly. I mean, just to say, on the yin linking, there's the point kidney 9, which is 5 soon above kidney 3. And kidney 9 is called the room of the guest room, because it's really about how we open up our heart to have welcoming guests. Whereas for the stepping vessels, it's much more about how we're rooted and connected to the earth. That's probably enough for now. Apart from, I was asked to show the mudra, which is really about connecting heart protector and triple heaters, so the 4 fingers, and then making a figure of 8. But I like to keep the large intestine and the small intestine free to the earth. So it's kind of like we're centered, but we have our wings which can fly. So we'll do that mudra at the end of the exercises. So now I'd like you to take a bit of space, maybe just pause, close your eyes for a moment, connect with that image of you as a bird, and that your arms are your wings, but they first start connected to your heart, and your wings protect you first of all. And that's why when we're first born, and when we're in the womb, well, we don't need, hopefully, protecting when we're in the womb, but our arms are close to our heart. In fact, we often suck our fingers, and our legs are close to our pelvis. And then we gradually start to open. So maybe feeling first a little bit like a baby, but doing a little flying movements, maybe having your hands on the muscles of the way, the linking vessels, on the top of the shoulders, feeling your deltoid, feeling this sense of protection, feeling also in a kind of spirally way that you're spiraling and moving, and you're feeling quite protected. And that is that sense of the yang protecting us, helping us to feel safe, helping us to hug ourselves. And maybe you want even to close your eyes, because there's a lot of gallbladder points on the head, and gallbladder is quite related to our eyes. But if we close our eyes, we can go more into this yin protection, and maybe even spiraling a little bit, like you're hugging yourself as a child, as the baby who's just been born, who is coming into contact with the outside world, with air and with space for the first time in this body, because we've been in the womb in water for 9 months. And so our arms in the water, imagine if you're swimming and you're just moving your arms in the water, they're supported by the water. And then all of a sudden you're not in the water. So you start to feel a bit more heaviness in your arms. And it takes time for these muscles of the trapezius, of the deltoid, of your neck to build up a bit of tone so that you can actually start to open them up and move. So feel like you're supported in the water first, and then you gradually start to open up your arms into the space. And maybe first focusing on your shoulders, because you don't reach out your arms straight away. So feel gradually now a movement of your shoulders, maybe holding onto your trapezius, onto the top of your shoulders, and just opening out your heart slowly, not doing too much. Maybe bringing back in as well. Opening out, but then feeling that movement back in. And you may even feel that's too much and you just want to open your wings and then do it the other way, bringing them back in and holding your heart and protecting your heart for a moment. And then opening up and then just drawing in to protect, to come back into your center, to come back into the conception vessel Renmai, but also coming back into your pelvis, really drawing in. So you're not quite yet a bird, or you're a baby bird that hasn't yet unfolded their wings. And this is what we, as a baby, we're learning to unfold our wings. And then as you unfold it, you have the dual movement of drawing in and opening up. So beginning to feel into your elbows, opening up, into the back of your shoulders, opening up, and really opening up even the back of your heart. Feeling that beginning to open into space, beginning to open to other people than just your mother, who you were much more open to in the womb, who was nourishing you with her blood. And then slowly, like imagine a little bird, just slowly feeling into your hands before you open your whole arm. Because your hands also are likely to be quite close to your mouth a lot of the time when you're in the womb, but also when you're a baby. So you can feel around your mouth and your eyes like a bird, and maybe turning your head from side to side as you begin to notice the space around you. And then, bit by bit, just gradually open your wings into space, beginning to explore as with the energy of a baby, to explore the space around you as though you're really feeling it for your first time. What is the nature of this space? Be in awe and wonder. Even if you're in a room, in a house that you've lived in for years, feel really this is the first time that you're experiencing everything. This is the energy of the way. It's like a real openness to new experience in its essence. But as you start doing this, the memory of time is held within him, which is helpful for us some of the time. But sometimes it's good to shed this energy and spread out much more into space and be more like a bird. So gradually, you're going to start to do this, and I will use my wings. I like the wings to give you this image of being much more open, and that you're much more than just your arms. So that as you might want to stand, so I'll change the camera in a minute, but just to show that you'll try as you do your movements to feel that you're much more than ending at your hand. You have a whole lot more energy in the space around you, that your arms really are like wings that can open up into the space, and very much try also spiraling movements. So you go more into a timeless kind of movement. And so for doing this, you might want to stand. As I've had a few technical issues this evening, I maybe will just stay kneeling, so also I don't move too much around the screen. But if you want to explore standing and being very light in your limbs, in your legs, sorry, that you're not so connected to the earth anymore, that you're really just like a bird flying through the space and spiraling. You're not necessarily just going in a linear way, you're really opening up, and time becomes less of a linear event. So as you spiral, you might be moving and lifting your legs and flying through space, and really spiral. Don't go in a linear forwards and back, but be creative. Explore the movement of your arms and of the space around you. And as you fly, remember there's always this double movement of opening up to the space. So feeling your heart, and how much does your heart want to open up to the space? But also, as you fly into the space, you might find that you want to really gather in energy of the space into your heart. So feel that dual movement of both opening up to space, to timelessness, to new experiences, to seeing things and experiencing things for the first time. But also, it's the balance of opening up your heart, but also gathering in from the space. That's the yin, that we gather in. And so as you move with your creative movements, feel what you want to release into space. The memories in your body which no longer serve you can be released, and you can just open up and let it all be held within the wider space. What no longer serves you can be released. The cycles that you have built up through your 7-year cycles of time for women, through 8 years for men. Just release anything from your past that no longer serves you in this current moment. And let it go into the space. And if you want to, you can go back 7 years and see if there's anything further back in time that you want to release. And you could go back 8 years if you're a man. You can go back 14 or 16 years. You can go back 21 years or 24 years. You can go back 36 years, 28 years, 35 years, 42 years, 40 years, 48 years, 49 years, 56 years, 63 years. Just go back to when you were a baby in the womb. Open. Open to everything. And then go forwards again in 7 and 8 year cycles, gathering in what you still feel is helpful for you to still hold within your body. 7 and 8 years, and gathering in. 14 and 16, gather in from those times. 21, 24, 28, 32, 40, 42, 49, 56. Just keep going through to where you are now, so that you feel that gathering in. As you gather in, you might want to allow yourself to feel that gathering in of what the memories are, or the experiences that still serve you, gathering them into your pelvis. So if you're standing, you might be circling your pelvis, or you might just decide to stand still, gathering all the memories of what still serves you into your body, into your pelvis, into your center, to let it settle and nourish you where you are now. And if you're standing, you might want to bring this into the present moment. The present moment is very much the lower part of your body, and the feet, and the stepping, and the connection to the earth. So allow your wings to gather in to the earth. Do you feel that balance between your upper and your lower body, and the stepping, your basic core posture? And you rest for a moment. And then, when you feel you've done enough of standing, you can gather in like a bird coming into its nest, or like a person deciding to sit on the earth, letting your feet rest. And if you want to, you can do the mudra for the linking vessels, placing your 2 middle fingers, heart protector, together, your 2 fourth fingers, gathering the thumb, but letting you have space with the large intestine and the small intestine, and bringing them onto your heart. And you can have your eyes open to space, or you can come more into the yin. And then we'll just sit for a little while, absorbing all these energies of the cycles of time, the cycles of 7 and 8 years you have lived through your life. But also important events which have happened in your life. The kind of events where it takes time to assimilate what is going on, like moving home. There's a big transition. You might be aware of the different times that you've changed your home and how that has been, and what has shifted in your life. You might want to focus more on relationships, especially the most important relationships in your life. Your life partner or partners, important relationships, people you've lived with, maybe you even had children with. Different jobs that you've had, different professions, and how that has maybe brought about changes in where you live, or maybe even in your close relationships. You're just naming these key moments internally, the big transitions in your life which may not correspond to 7 or 8 years cycles. Bringing all this into the present moment, into where you are at in your life in the current moment. So I'll let you stay with this image as yourself as a bird who has flown through your life and is now resting and processing. So you can take as much time as you need to do this. So for those who are watching this afterwards, thank you for sharing this with me. And for those who are still here, we can have some sharing and reflection. And if you're not here live with me, please feel free to post any comments or questions below.